Infinite Sadness, a worldwide concert broadcast with the Smashing Pumpkins, live from the Riviera Theatre in Chicago, Illinois. Before our concert begins, rock journalist Bill Wyman of the Chicago Reader will talk with the band about tonight's show and the new album Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the worldwide concert broadcast of the Smashing Pumpkins live from the Riviera Theatre in chilly Chicago. I'm Bill Wyman from the Chicago Reader. We're hours away from the official release of the Smashing Pumpkins' new 2-CD set, Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. And we're just minutes away from hearing the band's celebratory record release party from their hometown of Chicago. I'm sitting here with the Smashing Pumpkins themselves.
Right by the Riviera.
Bill Corgan.
Shaking. No, we're live right before the show, Darcy.
Oh, God.
Jimmy Chamberlin, and Dan Kehot. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Well, it's our show.
You might as well
We're
show
happy
up.
to be here.
Okay, so what are you? Are you nervous? Are you happy? Are you confident?
I'll
How
tell
you
you,
feeling?
Bill, we're going in a little crazy. We're feeling headstrong. We're playing confident. We're going to play good ball out there tonight. We heard the audience is tough. We know it's a Chicago audience. A lot of different things go through your mind. You're energized, but you're nervous. You're scared, but yet you're happy.
I don't think you want to continue the sports metaphor in Chicago, James, because Chicago doesn't have a whole bunch of winning teams right now, do they?
No, the Bears are in first place.
Hey,
The Bulls
Okay, I was
got
thinking
Rodman.
baseball.
I got 3 words for you. We're taking it to the streets.
Okay, Billy, this record is a 2-CD set. It's a 2-record set.
Jimmy. It's a joke.
Where in the course of recording this album did it become such a big and epic undertaking?
We decided to do the double album long before we ever actually set out to do it.
Long before we even started the band.
We talked about it long before we thought we could do it.
A double album is every band's dream, I hear.
It was in the DNA.
Okay, is it a concept album?
No.
However, it is kind of light, it is sort of scaled. There's 2 different CDs. One's called Dawn to Dusk, another's called Twilight to Starlight. What's the thinking behind that?
Kind of a day and night thing. One's better for the day when you're rocking.
That's a good point, because the first album is kind of front-loaded with a whole bunch of hard rock tunes.
Right.
The second album has some very noisy stuff on it, but I think the last, 5 songs really takes the listener out pretty well.
Right.
That was the intent from the beginning?
We want to put you to sleep at the very end. Yes.
That's the knockout punch.
Right.
Okay, now, it's at the same time, I do hear some conceptual sort of things. I mean, you could look at it as a day in the life of some sort of every fan going through...
The everyman.
Every what?
The everyman.
We're into the everyman.
The concept of the
We
everyman.
We are the everyman.
We are the
especially
everyman.
me.
But none of this was intentional. None of this was intentional. There's no concept behind it.
You never know.
Okay. The first song, we're going to play 3 or 4 songs from the new album in the upcoming minutes. The first one we want to play is Here Is No Why. Do I hear this correctly, that it's some sort of Ziggy Stardust-like character in there? There's some very kind of scabrous kind of commentary on some sort of rock
Also
star.
lascivious.
No, it's kind of a basic ode to, the death rock me.
Oh,
The
you
me
were
that
death
existed
rocker.
at 18. The black-haired misanthrope.
Okay, and the sound of it is a little bit different from the Pumpkins of the past. It seems to me it has a real, not really classic rock styling, but it does seem to be
Little glam. We always think of it as kind of glammy.
definitely glam feel. Let's listen to Here Is No Why from the new Smashing Pumpkins record, Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness, and we'll be right back. And here we are outside the Riviera Theatre,
That was heavy.
just minutes before the Smashing Pumpkins
And hey,
take the stage
By the way, thanks for listening, everybody.
for their celebratory record release concert here in Chicago. The record is Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. The song you just heard, Here Is No Why. What does that title mean?
Don't know.
Okay.
It used to be No Is Here Why.
And just got mixed up in the transcriptions.
Right.
Another thing people are going to notice about this record is how epic it is, how ambitious it is, and how diverse the music is. The Smashing Pumpkins have always dealt in diverse musical styles, but now we got weird electronic songs, we got a lullaby, we got a country song, almost country, and something that almost sounds as noisy as 9 Inch Nails.
Hey,
I'm
watch
thinking
it.
of Lily.
That
Watch
wouldn't
it.
be that burlesque song.
Yeah, that's a
That burlesque
1920s
thing.
burlesque song.
And the first use of a ukulele on the Smashing Pumpkins record. I'm just joking. Any thoughts about that? Is that
Yeah, we'd
part
like
of the
to thank
concept of the
Tiny
record?
Tim for doing the guest appearance.
No, it's a really exciting record to do because we got to try all sorts of different crazy stuff. James had his kazoo out.
Yep.
You know.
My harmonica. My kazoo.
The other members of the band take vocal turns on the closing song.
Yes.
It must have been a positive experience for all of you.
Actually, It took forever.
To record that
James's
song?
parts took forever.
Yeah.
I did mine like
Who screwed up? Whose fault was that?
One take Jimmy.
Hey, we're
with
all
him.
together on this, and
Okay, and how was it with Flood? Did Flood help you work on the diversity? Was he a steady influence?
well,
Nah.
you're one of those English whips. with
How'd you hook up with him?
We were really big fans of a lot of records that he'd done, like Crime and
worked-
City Solution and Erasure and Depeche Mode, and he made some really cool records with bands that you wouldn't necessarily like all their music, but somehow those records seemed to stand out, and I kept picking up these records and noticing this guy's name named Flood. So I met him at a party, and we talked, and I mentioned that I'd be interested in having him work with us at some point, and he seemed interested, and we talked about it later, and that's how it worked out.
Hey, on Siamese Dream, the lead-off song, Cherub Rock, began with "Let Me Out of Your Scene." Let me out of your scene. You were kind of...
I never said "let me out of your scene." I don't understand that.
What does it say?
It just says "let me out."
I
Out
guess
of
the
your
implication...
scene. Out of
That's
your
in
scene.
your
Your
version.
scene, man.
It seemed that you could read that as a critique
Sure.
of sort of the alternative rock world. This record seems to stay away from all that. I mean, now that you've headlined Lollapalooza, you must feel like you're pretty much in control of your place in the...
Well, we were
rock
reacting to what was like the old status quo kind of, the bands that were probably the more early alternative bands like the Mudhoney's and people like that. I mean, bands that we liked, and we couldn't understand why they had a problem with us. Suddenly, we were like the bane of their existence, and we couldn't really understand why. Having been fans and having followed the bands, it was hard for us to understand. So it was kind of a negative reaction to a lot of the vitriolic crap that came out of all that, So it was, and it was, it was something, and plus it was some of the stuff that had gone on in Chicago too. But it's great now because we're in a totally different position, and there's not much anybody can really say that can stop us or hurt us or keep us from being what we are, and that's a much nicer position to be in.
I can see that too. The next song we're going to play is 1979, and when you talk about what you used to write about, now you really seem, as you said in the Tribune this morning, you're concentrating on writing about what life is like for kids these days. 1979, I think, is a really nice portrait of sort of, I'm reading it as sort of teenage restlessness. It seems to have characters like Junebug and Justine in it. Where did that song come from?
Well, that's actually kind of this song is kind of interesting because it was the last song that actually got put on the album, and we are actually going to throw it off the album, and I went home and kind of completely rewrote the song in one night and came back the next day, and Flood just loved it, and we recorded it like pretty much right there.
And as we listen to this, I think it has a really interesting backing track. It's just really lulling. It brings you along. There's all sorts of weird little sound effects in it too. Where did they come from?
That's all the electronic equipment that we've been using, sampling and stuff. I think it's really this is kind of an interesting way where you can still retain your identity musically, but still encompass the new technology available to make different kind of music. So it's kind of like it's like synthesizers without the hokey like synthesizer parts.
Terrific. Check it out. 1979 from the Smashing Pumpkins' new record, Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're sitting outside the Riviera Theatre in Chicago, home of the Smashing Pumpkins. With us, the Smashing Pumpkins are here. You just heard 1979 from Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness, a new album coming out in just hours. And in just a little bit, the Smashing Pumpkins are going to be playing a concert.
And these are the songs we're not going to play.
These are some of the songs you're not going to be playing tonight. Now, you're doing this live broadcast, which is nice for a lot of your fans in North America and around the world. But do I hear this right now? You're not going to be touring this fall?
No.
And why would that be?
We decided that because there were so many songs on the record that we were kind of putting everyone in a difficult position who wanted to come see the band, which would be trying to understand all the music and then come see us live and have us playing all these different kinds of songs.
You could do it like The Wall, where you played the whole record from start to finish.
We may do that at some point, but we want to give people a little time to digest the music. There's an awful lot of music, and it just seemed like a better thing to do.
Wow, well,
Plus, it's cold.
Yeah, that's a very thoughtful thing. So you might tour after the start of '96?
Absolutely.
And then what's this I hear that maybe you might want to do a tour with other Chicago bands and stuff like that, Chicago on the Road?
Well,
That's
we're kind of...
That's a great name for it. Chicago on the
We're gonna
road.
Just
try and
just off the top of my head, I came
turn
up with it.
Chicago into the next Branson.
It's going to be...
Well, I think we're here.
Yeah, we're hoping to do a tour of all Chicago area bands, as kind of like a, promote Chicago as a music entity, because I think it's often overlooked as a place of great musical...
tour.
bands of great inspiration, I think.
Who are some of your favorites in town?
Certainly Urge and Veruca Salt and the Cheap Trick, who's playing with us tonight.
That's right.
How did that come about? You guys are big fans of Cheap
Wilco's
Trick.
another. Well, I don't know.
Wilco.
Yeah, well,
They're not
they
from Chicago, James.
but now
He
they
lives
live
here.
in Chicago.
The leader of Wilco lives
Does that count, though?
Well, where are they from?
He's a carpetbagger is what he is. Let's just call a spade a
All
spade.
right.
We welcome Wilco with open Chicago arms.
It's funny you mentioned Cheap Trick, because Cheap Trick sold millions and millions of records in 79 and 80 and things like that, and they really are considered a serious heritage band here in Chicago. Everyone
Absolutely.
from Steve Albini to you guys will give props to them.
Absolutely.
As you've been coming up in the world, have you been playing with them in the past?
Never.
Never.
This
You
will
never
be the
have?
first time, yeah.
And they're your special invited guests here tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great honor to have them playing with us tonight, because I think they've been such a source of inspiration for so many bands that maybe a lot of the people wouldn't even know. Bands that have been popular, from Pumpkins to Nirvana to Hole to there's just so many bands that have been influenced by Cheap Trick, and they're the kind of band that seems to have gotten a little lost in the cracks between what people reference as far as musical inspiration. But I think they're a very important link between the early 70s and certainly the late 80s.
And it brings us back in a way to what we were talking about before, because Cheap Trick was a band with credibility, if you will, and hits. And it seemed for a while people in the indie scene, particularly in Chicago, got obsessed with credibility at the expense of kind of that pop rock feel. And certainly Urge Overkill would say that. Certainly Veruca would, and certainly you would.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately music is about having fun. Music is not about politics. Music is not about all these serious subjects. It's really about having fun. And I think if you can combine the other elements in with that, that's great. But mostly, people just want to have a good time.
And let's go back to this tour question. Are you seriously thinking of going on the road, maybe playing the whole of the album? Is that something maybe people might be looking for?
Well, we certainly want to do a big show.
I think we always think of that. I think whenever we make a record, we're always like, we're so attached to every song that we always have this vision of someday we'll go out and be able to play every song, and it'll be great.
Every song off every album.
I mean,
In a row.
Whether that becomes a reality because the album is so long, I don't know.
Because of the long content, the shows will only have shows for like 20 people.
And we're going to play all the songs like at 75 speed.
That would be great. It'd be very intimate. It'd be an intimate show.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me another trouble with a band like you guys, who put out your second studio album and immediately went to the top of the charts, and all of a sudden we're headlining Lollapalooza, that while you definitely brought off your Lollapalooza shows, it brings in the question of, wow, now we have to reformat our stage show for playing at a new level. Is that another consideration?
Because we were never the kind of band that really thought we were going to be playing such big places, I mean, I thought we were always kind of more of a club kind of band. And certainly when you play for more people, you have to definitely rethink the way that you're, like that obscure B-side, how many people in the audience are really going to know it. It kind of creates those kind of problems.
That's a good point. The last song we're going to play is By Starlight, which is the second to the last song on the record, and I think it'll give people a good sense of the diversity of the record, and also how in the last half of the second disc you do start to bring people down and out just before the closing sort of lullaby song. Again, I think that the electronic sound of this, the softness of it, is going to be something. It's going to be a new sound for people who've heard.
Well, this has flood all over it. This one.
What is that? Tell people what that means. What does that mean? Have flood all over it?
Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. That's the sound of flood's heartbeat.
Actually, the song was completely different when we first started working on it. It was kind of this.
It's more like a Fish jam.
It was more. Yeah, it was this real slow ballad with these really over-exaggerated Pink Floyd type drum fills, and when Flood came in and he heard the song, he just kind of laughed and said it was ridiculous, and he didn't even want to hear it. So what we did was we recorded some drum loops and experimented with some different types of rhythm feels, and
then we came in one day. It sounded like New Order.
It went through about 3 different incarnations before we finally settled on this one. But Flood basically took the song and made it his own, so he could at least deal with it on a personal level, I think.
And we just sort of played on it, and he was like, "Yeah, try it."
And it all came together.
But I mean, it really came out as a great tune. I mean, it was always a great tune lyrically, but I think musically we were kind of reaching at the beginning.
Missing the boat.
So this is By Starlight from the new Smashing Pumpkins album.
Are we supposed to say goodbye now, then?
Yeah, we're going to do that in just one second. Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. You guys, thanks for hanging out here. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah. Hope everyone enjoys the show.
And good luck on the show.
Good for a change.
Yeah. Right.
And congratulations on the new record.
Ignore all the
Thanks,
sloppy
Good
chord
night.
changes.
We're going to hear By Starlight, and the next sound you hear after that will be the Smashing Pumpkins taking the stage
will be that of the Smashing Pumpkins.
at the Riviera Theatre in Chicago. I'm Bill Wyman. Thanks for listening.
And the other part you're not seeing is like the big gladiators we have on stage. Just imagine it. It's
There's
wild.
one on each side. Big professional wrestlers, the American gladiators, you know.
So everyone has to imagine all this as they watch the...
Right.
Okay.
And
Thanks a lot, you guys.
especially the part when James lights himself on fire. You won't be able to see that on the radio, but
It'll just be a sizzling
we're going to mic him.
cackle.
Thanks. Good night. Bye.